Roberta Gordon never planned on working at 76. However, she never received a pension, nor did she contribute to an investment account for retirement. Unfortunately, working into her old age hasn't been enough, and she's been forced to take on credit card debt in order to pay for utilities, food, and essentials. Roberta's story, reported by The Atlantic in February 2018, demonstrates a problem that many older women are facing: a lack of investment to prepare for the future. But it isn't their fault. Oftentimes, these women have spent many of their working years raising children, leaving them with little to no retirement investments. In fact, according to the New York Times in December 2021, the number of women aged 65 or older living in poverty is more than 10%. Fidelity's Women in Investing study in 2021 found that 2/3 of women studied said that they'd wish they'd invested sooner. Thankfully, a new phenomenon is emerging in the world of finance: women investing in dramatic numbers, opening up new horizons for women as they age, but also tearing down barriers of what has always been a male-dominated industry. With that in mind, it's important that we look at why women haven't invested more in the past, see why they're investing more now, before finally discussing some impacts and implications of this investment revolution. First, it's not exactly a shocking revelation that historically, women have had less economic power than men. Pre-pandemic, in September 2018, NBC reported that women invested 40% less than men. To put this impact into perspective, if a woman saves $25 a month in a savings account with low interest versus investing just $25 a month, in 40 years, she would have roughly $15,000 more by investing rather than saving. This demonstrates that not only are women missing out on accruing wealth due to the wage gap, but also due to not investing enough. Another issue is that to women, the financial industry is frankly very hostile. The Financial Times in February 2022 explains women consider investing to be very high risk. Since less than 10% of women consider themselves high risk tolerant, this confidence gap is a major barrier preventing women from investing. According to a study conducted by the New York Life Investments in 2020, women are also mistreated and misunderstood by their financial advisors. Over half the women studied said that their financial advisors treated women differently or dismissed what they had to say. One interviewee explains that when her and her husband's advisor arrived at their home, he would always ask her for something to eat. By the time she brought him the requested food, the meeting would be concluding. Eventually, out of frustration, she started avoiding these meetings altogether. The International Monetary Fund in September 2018 explains women accounted for less than 2% of financial institutions' chief executive officers and less than 20% of executive board members. This creates an environment in the financial market where finance products are both less attractive and less accessible to women. To be curt, women are not the target audience for investment firms. But, and I swear, I understand the weight of what I'm about to say. It turns out the pandemic may have actually done some good for society. Since the beginning of 2020, there has been a major shift in women's financial behavior. Already having less financial stability as a demographic, the pandemic disproportionately harmed women. The Washington Post in October 2021 reports that in the first 10 months of the pandemic, women lost 1 million more jobs than men. Yet, in the same period, women were choosing to invest. More than 70% of women are now invested in accounts outside of retirement, up from 44% in 2019. The number of new female customers in investment firms rose 9% between 2020 and 2021. In 2021, March, Robinhood published that the number of new accounts held by female customers had quadrupled within the same period. The precarity of the economic crisis was a wake-up call for women. One reason they were able to invest more? They had some money to do it. A survey conducted by Betterment in June 2021 found that almost 40% of women invested all or part of their COVID-19 stimulus money. These staggering numbers also pointed to one significant conclusion that came as a surprise to a male-dominated industry. Not only are women starting investments at a higher rate than men, but they're also better at it. Sorry boys, hashtag money moves. The previously mentioned Fidelity study found that women earned 0.4 percentage points higher than men based on their investment choices. This doesn't sound like much, but over the course of a few decades, this means extra tens of thousands of dollars in extra wealth gains. With this phenomenon showing no signs of slowing down, it is clear that society is seeing significant impacts from the growing number of women investing. First, economic growth. When women participate more in economies, it results in the growth of that economy. Not exactly a shocking revelation, but significant in this context. CNBC in May 2021 explains that more than half of women are now the main breadwinners for their family. Now that they are putting income into investments, it is a boost for the economy at a time when economic growth is crucial. Women are also behind a major growth in sustainable investments. The aforementioned International Monetary Fund study found that the greater inclusion of women as users, providers, and regulators of financial services has benefits beyond addressing gender inequality. The greater inclusion of women helps promote greater banking stability. Not only are women helping to grow the economy, but they're also doing so more ethically. The previously mentioned CNBC article explains women are significantly less likely than men to invest in companies considered not socially responsible. Through impact investing, women can invest in companies that align with their values. This can have a significant and lasting effect on our economy and helps make improvements on environmental concerns, women's issues, and society overall. A Forbes magazine article in March 2021 furthers this when it explains historically women have been more motivated to donate to their communities or charity than they were to invest. We can see with impact investing, women are able to have more financially sound futures while also investing in what they believe in. However, despite this major growth of women's interest in investing, there is still a major gap for women of color in particular. Another CNBC article in August 2021 found that, broken down by gender, 59% of black women weren't invested in anything, compared to 48% of Hispanic women, 34% of white women, while just 23% of white men weren't invested at all. We are seeing significant impacts from the growing number of women investing. However, we need to ensure women of color are able to see these same impacts as well. We need to put women of color at the forefront of financial advising and promote companies that make investing flexible, digestible, and meaningful for all women. One example of this has been the investment company Ellevest. Initially, CEO and founder Sally Krawcheck was criticized for proposing an investment company for women by women. The investment company helps with banking services, investment management, and women's financial education. And it is both affordable and accessible, even if you have as little as $1 to invest. It's also hugely successful, and despite its young age, manages over $1 billion of women's assets. Finance products like this help encourage women to invest and help us break down our investor stereotypes. Sally explains that she's proud women have been growing their investments during the pandemic, at a time she thought they would pull back. Today, we discussed the past of women investing, discovered the growth of women's interest in investing, before finally discussing the benefits and issues facing women who do invest. This women's financial movement may help people like Roberta avoid the pitfalls of retirement and paints a picture for a more vibrant future, where fewer women will have to go into poverty, live into debt, or work in their old age in their golden retirement years.